now we have Dr. Praneeth Reddy. He is again, so this session now will talk about two stories. Dr. Reddy, high scores, 260 plus, I guess, in all three steps. So he's going to talk about why scores are important for you. And then we have Dr. Roshni Pradeep, both of them are students. And Roshni Pradeep is going to talk about why things other than scores matters. She's been very public about her step one lower score, but she has done other things to match. Both of them matched in internal medicine. So let's go to Dr. Reddy first, who's going to talk about why scores are important if you still are in the running for the scores, if you've not done all the exams. So over to you, Praneeth.
Thanks, Pawan. Hello, everyone. I'm Praneeth. I'm one of the first year residents matched into internal medicine, and glad to join you all here today and be able to contribute my bit here today. So like Pawan said, we're going to talk a little bit about if scores are important, what scores are more important, and what you can expect with good scores. So I think a lot of us have questions and about what is important, and there are a whole set of things that you can work on to improve your profile, like scores, letters, rotations, publications, could be networking, and interpersonal skills as well. But then some things are more important than others. Each of them has their own importance depending on the profile. Some might be more important, but then we might not always have the time to work on each and every part of the profile. So that's where the question comes in: what's the single most important thing? So fortunately or unfortunately, scores are highly important, and probably sometimes they are one of the single most important things for most programs. That being said, doesn't mean you cannot match with low scores. There are ways around. There are certain other things that you have to do. The next speaker is going to talk in detail about that. But high scores almost always means higher probability of interviews, like more number of interviews, and then more probability to match. And also high scores most of the time for programs translate into higher medical knowledge, which is a quality that they want their residents to have. So yes, high scores almost always means higher probability of match. And let me quickly share my screen. So this is from AAMC, one of the very recent data. You can take a look here that the average step one score is around 231 for internal medicine. We're going to talk more about internal medicine because that's like the most commonly sought out residency program for IMGs, but most IMG friendly programs are within the same range. 242 for step 2 CK. You can see that's about the 50th percentile or the average score for step one. And if you look at the 75th and 90th percentile, kind of like the high scores, is like 244 for step one, 253 for step 2 CK, and 90th percentile is 254 and 262. The reason I say that high scores means higher probability of matching is this is not like very recent data, but relatively recent. Step one is now pass or fail, but still the idea is that you should understand that higher scores means higher probability of matching. So the green line is for the non-US IMGs. 240s in step one used to mean almost 70% probability of matching. 260s increases that probability to around 90% chances of matching, I would say. And non-US for non-US IMGs, the step 2 CK score is very important. What we can see here is higher CK scores means very less likely that you won't be matched. The ratio between matched to unmatched goes up significantly as your score increases. So unlikely that you will not be matched with high scores. We can talk in detail about the nitty-gritty things, why you may not still match with high scores, or how you can match with low scores. But overall, the idea is higher scores right away means that you have a very high probability of matching. And for certain academic programs, I would say it wouldn't be all scores. Like I said, it is program specific. For certain programs, they might use scores as only an initial filter to screen and give interviews. They might not consider it or give much weightage to it at the time of ranking. That is where other things come into picture. But certain programs, scores, they might give importance both at the time of giving you interviews as well as ranking you, unless there are no obvious red flags during the interviews. So from high scores, you can definitely expect higher number of interviews and higher probability of getting matched. For certain academic programs, I would say that apart from scores, other things, especially your LOR, your interpersonal skills and research or publications, these will be more important. So that's where the overall application comes in afterwards. So high probability of matching, but if your goal is to go into an academic program, big centers, then yes, certain other things matter too, not just scores. And that's where we actually started the Start to Match course at Sarthi. This is to help medical students, those who are going for exams very soon, and maybe going for the match in the next 2 years. We work with them on various aspects of the match profile, talk about the basics to higher level things, and so that they can have a better overall profile and hence higher probability of matching into the specialty of interest. We have monthly classes. You can just go to the website, the Scratch to Match course, and you will see details. We have classes on different aspects as well as a closed group for mentoring. So oftentimes the next question would be, what is the target score? So I would say the 75th percentile, like we saw for step 1, is around 244. The 90th percentile for step 1 was 254. Step 1 is now pass or fail. So focus on the CK score. I would say a CK score of around 250 is very good. So if most of the time you ask me, what's the good score? So around 250s in step 2 CK is good. You can look at the data. That's why I say like 250s is good. Step 3, Dr. Mansoori already just spoke about it. Having it on your profile significantly improves your chance of matching. But then if you have a better step 3 score, I had a very good step 3 score. And most of the interviews asked me about my step 3 score, how I was able to score high on that. So it might not always be very true, but yes, to a large extent, good scores translate to good medical knowledge, and programs would want to see it. So why not work on it? Whatever it takes to get a good score, then you should be. We should all try to do that. If we do not end up getting a good score, then there are ways around. There are so many things, other things that you can work on. That doesn't define anything. But yes, if you can, then always it's very helpful to get a good score that straight away increases your probability of match. So that's the bottom line. I think you can still be able to match with low scores, but it's fortunately or unfortunately the single most important thing. So start working on that and try to score high, especially on your step 2 CK and step 3. That's a brief about why I think scores are important and how they can increase your match probability. But if you have any other questions about the USMLE steps and all, I'll be happy to answer them here, or you can take a look even at our match course, Scratch to Match course.
Thank you very much, Praneeth. So let's hold off on the questions. I do want to invite our second speaker of the session now, Dr. Roshni Pradeep, who will give you the other perspective, right? So Roshni, welcome, and glad to have you in Arizona.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So I'm here to talk about low scores and working your way up to match. I totally agree with the statistics of Dr. Reddy. I mean, that is the actual scenario that if you've not taken your steps yet, probably you have to first target on your scores, and that would be the most important thing to do. But if you've already done with your steps, like I was in a situation last year that, in beginning of 21, I had done my step 1. I had a score below 220. I was wondering what to do. So this is for people who are, already done with your step 1. You have an obvious result here that your step 1 scores are low and how to go ahead. So the first thing I want to talk about is, if you've not taken your step 2 yet, make sure you do it much better, at least at a difference of, 20 points, if possible. if you feel that your NBMEs are not getting there, your self-assessments are not getting there, make sure if you have the time to do better and get a better score. That would be an ultimate goal, because now that step one has become pass or fail, it is obvious that step two is going to be the game changer. So work on it. If you've not got a good step score, okay, so what to do from now? So I'm just going to bring up some points from what I did, and I think it might motivate others to work on these aspects. The first being, I worked on my step two score, which I thought I improved significantly from my step one. So that was the first thing. And the second is during, I'm from India, so I had to do some home country work experience. So I switched my work to working in a COVID intensive care unit, just because of one reason, I was in a situation to do that. And the second is I thought it would give me a better standpoint when I appear for interviews, that working in an intensive care unit, I'll gain more experience, more impact on PDs and everything. And I think that is true. Regardless of anything, the COVID experience has been golden for the past 2 years. And program directors love to hear your struggles and experience during this time. So I mean, there are other ways to get an impactful home country experience, given working in volunteer organizations which are globally recognized, that there is Red Cross, UNICEF. So organizations like this, if you are able to volunteer, and I'm sure you will be able to, because I was able to volunteer in the Indian Red Cross back in Chennai, which is where I'm from. So it's just that we need to reach out and find out for opportunities, and I'm sure there are more opportunities available here. So these things improved my CV better. The next thing I worked on is I was doing tele rotations. The same time I was working in my ICU. In the nights, I would come back and do some tele rotations. I did almost 3 tele rotations because it was hard to travel during that time, and I was not sure if I could travel. And I ended up doing 3 tele rotations back home. And when I got an opportunity that there was something like an NIE, travel restriction was lifted, I made sure I traveled to the US, because I think that's the best decision I've taken. I just quit my job there and I decided to gain some US clinical experience. And US clinical experience is the most golden thing you can have in your CV, because all the programs are looking for it, and you have no excuse to not have it. The COVID pandemic and the travel restrictions are almost lifted everywhere. So there's no excuse for not being in the US and doing at least 1 or 2 rotations. If possible, all 4 LORs in person would be great. So that would be something I would advise to work on. And getting LORs is not such an easy thing. Getting a basic LOR is possible from anywhere, but getting a good LOR is something during the rotations you need to work on. And I had rotations where whoever my attending who gave the LOR actually assessed students on how hard they are working, how long they are there in the wards, and how much work they put in. So I'm sure there are all the observerships now, or many observerships look, your attendings are looking at what you're doing, and your LORs will totally depend on your work. And I managed to get some good LORs with some excellent recommendations. I think they played a major role in my match. So, and also the next thing is, if you're not doing a US clinical experience, and if you have already taken your step 3, which, like Dr. Reddy said, step 3 will be the next step, to get in the year you're applying for. If you have low scores, I would highly recommend step 3 first before you look into anything. Step 3 and US clinical experience are the main things. But, just because you took 2 months to keep preparing for step 3, it doesn't mean we cannot just sit there and say that I was just preparing for it. But you need to do some volunteering or any experience you can get to say that you were not just, preparing for your step 3 or something. So I did some volunteering when I was preparing for my step 3 exam. in Kansas. I'm sure there are a lot of volunteering opportunities available. If you can manage a clinical setting like a primary care or something, it would be great because it gives you points to talk at interviews. So I think that would be a great bonus. So I ended up getting 4 interviews, all 4 in January, because I took my step 3 in December and updated all the programs about it. And I started getting interviews only after that. But what made a difference, like after I started getting interviews, being that working on it, like interviews are, each program has its own requirements and they're looking for certain type of candidates. And you need to sit and work on each interview like extensively, making sure that, you work on not just answering them, but interacting with your program directors. I would say is like the most important thing. Making sure you are having a communication, you're connecting well with them. That makes a huge difference. Given that the interviews are tele and all these scenarios, it is important that you connect with your program directors. So outreach before the interviews, and thank you mails after the interviews, and keep reaching out to your program directors, letting them know your updates. Like, I finished my step 3, my score is so and so. I'm doing volunteering currently in the US, and I'm having working here. I'm getting some very good work experience. I sent a lot of emails. I also made some calls to some of them. Even in the place where I was staying, I made sure I just took a letter of interest to 2 of the programs and submitted it to the, I think, coordinators. So it was, I took extensive efforts to reach out. And I think anyone should do that regardless. I know that some people say there is some restriction, you should not call or some things like that. But if you're going to call all the programs, not everybody is going to pick up, but there are going to be few program coordinators or program directors who are going to answer your phone and listen to you, and make sure you have a short summary of what you've done so far, what you're looking for and how much you're interested in that program. That's what they want to hear in like 2 minutes. If you can summarize it, it would be great. So pretty much this is what I did when it came to my interview season, through my journey, and I did match this season. So good luck to everyone. Yeah.
Thank you, Roshni and Praneeth.